Module 19, Process of Corpus Generation. In this module, we will also discuss about the methodology, the process we followed to develop the TDL corpus. Most of the issues that are discussed here, that we discuss here with reference to the TDL corpus, are actually relevant for other corpus generations also. But even then, there are some specificity, some amount of uniqueness in this process. And here, we would always try to focus on it so that you can have idea how the TDL corpus, the first effort for Indian corpus generation, was successful. The first issue is method of text selection. So, as we have already said that it is a real difficult question, what kind of texts should go in the corpus. For us, as I have noted, that there are various texts: informative text, imaginative text, scientific text, non-scientific text, media text, advertisements, medical text. A lot of types of texts are there. Since we want to be maximally representative and varied, at the same time, we don't want to leave any particular kind of text untouched in the corpus. We have to be careful in selections of the texts. Obviously, we have already mentioned that since it is a written text corpus, we have not taken into consideration the spoken texts. Similarly, we have not considered the text produced in dramas and plays, because certain amount of artificiality are involved into there, and that is not that kind of spontaneous text as we normally come across in other kinds of written text documents. For the TDL corpus, we decided broadly there should be 10 types of texts, and the data should be evenly distributed among those 10 types. So, since this was a target of 3 million words, and there are 10 broad types of text that are considered, you can very easily understand that 3 lakhs of words, that is 10%, the percentage is something like that, will suffice. So, the broad text categories that we considered for compilation of the data are: first one is creative writing texts, that include all imaginative creative texts like novels, short stories, essays also. Then fine arts texts. Fine arts text means mostly songs and music, dance and other related things. Then social sciences text. Social sciences, political science, philosophy, psychology, education and various other subdomains. Natural sciences texts, physics, chemistry, mathematics, biology, zoology and other major disciplines of natural science text. Then medical science texts. Medical science texts not only included the allopathic medicines, medical also had say homeopathic medicines, Ayurvedic medicines, treatments, operations, different types of diseases, different types of ailments. So all things, even medical laws, medical principles, medical ethics, all those issues are taken into consideration in the medical text category. In the cases of technology and engineering text, our emphasis was on the text produced, say, in computer science, electrical engineering, civil engineering, and other domains, computer science engineering. Then there are mass media texts. In mass media text, we have taken into consideration text produced in newspapers, magazines, periodicals, posters, festoons, placards, and say small notices, and even in manifestos. So all those things which are publicly circulated, easily accessible to them. There is no restrictions in use. So that kind of text are taken into consideration for the mass media text. A major chunk of the mass media text also included advertisements, various types of advertisements available in some periodicals, magazines, and newspapers. Then we had commerce and industries texts, that basically coming from commerce, business, banking, accountancy, and many other subdisciplines. Then we had legal and administrative texts that actually included all government circulars, notices, instructions, all those are orders, office orders, and all those things. So, which are even in the court proceedings text of the court proceedings, some books on legal matters, some legal documents, rules, bylaws, even as part of our Indian Constitution are included into this part. Then the last of the text categories was the other text that particularly included school texts, particularly at the secondary level school text from class 5 to class 10. So, since this kind of text is most basically a pedagogic text, educative texts, having a lot of instructional properties into it, it constitutes a separate body. So, thus, for our TDL corpus, we had 10 major categories of texts, apart from we have got data in equal proportion, particularly 3 lakhs of words from each text. So, we can find out that these broad text categories had several subcategories also, as I have already mentioned, that creative writing, and novels, short stories, essays, technique, travelers, and others. So, I am not going to give a detail about it. You can have it from the write-up attached to that, where they have given the full table to show how different subdomains are included into broad categories, and tech words and data are collected from those. So, we have already mentioned that we didn't use the poetic text. That was quite justified, and there are other reasons for that. That I will explain. So, poetic texts are not included in this. The second issue was technical requirements. What kind of system or interface we need to have to develop the corpus? Now, when we're talking about the TDL corpus, which was started in 1991, at that time, the technology, the computer technology that was very much required for developing this corpus was not as advanced as it is today. So, today it is not a problem for us, because many texts are available in many of the Indian languages in Unicode format, in UTF-8 format, in the net. So, anybody can easily collect those texts and develop a corpus. But we are talking about the time when that kind of system was not there. So, what we had, the technology we had a disk operating system DOS environment, where we had a support GIST card, graphic interface transcript card, to be inserted into the system, then trigger the operation of a particular interface in Indian scripts, select a particular script, and type those things into the machine to generate in the text, not in Unicode form, but not in Unicode format, but in ISCI format. So, the basic resources, tools that was used at the time, some personal computers with good storage capacity. Then there was a transcript card, which is based on graphics and intelligence based script technology, developed that transcript card, which is known as GIST card. That was also were available for us, and we used that technology. And there was a converter which could convert text from ASCII to ISCI and vice versa. Also, we had a software namely called script processor, which could manage all Indian scripts in a hierarchical manner, with having layout that upper keys are for Roman scripts, and then lower keys are for Roman scripts and upper keys are for Indian scripts. A lot kind of a visual interface was there, which we used for this purpose. Then software, namely the script processor, that had the interface for that, and several display monitors which could visually show us that these are the text which is being produced. Conventional computer keyboards, some printers, some floppy diskettes to store this data. So the basic problem was something like that. The technology which we were using at the time to develop the corpus was very naive. So a lot of prior operations we have to do before we could actually insert the data into the machine. And this graphic gist card was available for those people who are working for this corpus generation. Since it was not available in the market, anybody cannot buy and do that. So you could have that card only installed in the system to type the data into the machine. And this card had several limitations, particularly in cases of formations of clusters, consonant conjuncts or consonant clusters. We had a lot of troubles. But as you know that normally in cases of writing, what we do personally for manual writing, you put one character just below of the other character or at the side of the other character, or altogether have a new character to generate a consonant conjunct or a cluster. But while typing into the system, the computer text, that was not like this, that you cannot just put two characters together side by side and they will constitute a cluster. No, we had to give an additional piece of information to the machine that the machine understands that character 1 and character 2 are to be combined together to generate a cluster. So there is unique code for halant. So what happens when you see a consonant 1, immediately after consonant 1 you put the halant mark and then consonant 2. Then it is understood that C1 and C2, that consonant 1, first consonant and second consonant, are supposed to be combined together to generate a cluster. So that would ultimately generate a consonant conjunct and put into the word. So we have to give additional labor to generate a consonant conjunct. That never happens in cases of writing. There are further more complexities involved into it. In cases of conjuncts made of 3 or 4 characters, and in fact there are many in a language like Bangla, at least I can say there are nearly hundreds of such consonant conjuncts where more than at least three consonants are combined together. So in those cases, it is far more complicated because the interface hardly allowed us to, in scope, to combine 3 consonants. What generally happens that after the combinations of the first 2 consonants to generate a cluster, you have to repeat the same process again. That is, you have to put the halant mark again after the first conjunct is formed, then again the third consonant immediately after the halant, so that also is instructed to be combined together with the preceding conjunct already formed by first 2 consonants. But in most cases that doesn't happen. What happens that the halant mark remains unchanged, visible, and immediately after the halant mark the consonant comes. So you get a peculiar kind of set that first 2 consonants combines to the consonant conjunct, then immediately after that there is a halant mark, then the third consonant. Sometimes it merges, sometimes it does not. So what is reflected on the monitor is something, a peculiar kind of thing which we may not like to consider as a consonant conjunct made of 3 consonants. So obviously in a later version, in the new revised versions of the technology, we got problem solved, but at the initial stage it was a real tough task, real problem for us to generate consonant clusters of 3 consonants. Mostly for we have noted for Bangla, Odia and Assamia that this was really creating a real problem to generate those questions. Also, sometimes we have noted that some combinations, because machine understood that C consonant 1, first consonant and second consonant are necessarily need to be combined together if there is a halant mark in between. The reality is that sometimes there is no possibility that they should combine together to consonant class. This is not used, but in the machine, because of the presence of these things, they are considered created like that. So we have come across in many situations where there is no cluster at all in the language, but because of the applications of this rule, you get some new kind of consonant cluster. Say for example, I can say that let us give a very concrete example. Say po plus to is a valid combination, is acceptable. Also, to plus po is not a valid combination in Bangla. But if you put to and halant plus po together, they would be combined together and create a very peculiar kind of shape to be reflected in the language. So in many cases, we have noted that that kind of unrequired, unexpected combinations of clusters have been generated to the texts in the digital part of the text. So there are some technical issues that have been involved, and we have also here that some of the combinations, three consonant combinations, are not properly coming for us. So all those problems had to be taken into consideration, or the challenges, those problems has to be faced at that time when we are doing developing corpus in those days. Then next issue is method of data entry. How to enter the data. Since we have already said that the entire TDL corpus is manually typed, we at the time, the present technology was not much advanced, but we can understand there are 4 alternative processes through which we could collect data. The first one is electronic resource. So there are various electronic resources, digitally available data, where from we can collect data. That is a very simple thing. If we have developed something digital available in the market, or from the publishing houses, from newspaper houses, we can ask them, please provide your data for our research purposes, and we can also sometimes we need to buy them from the houses and get it. So electronic data which is already made by other agencies, you can procure that data to be included into corpus. The second option is basically the internet. As at present, internet is one of the best source of data. So you can get data from the different home pages, different blogs, web pages, from emails. So internet is a very good source for getting data. In fact, many of the corpora developed across the world following this strategy. The third option was Ocr system, that is optical character recognition system. It works something the way like that. There is a scanner which scans a particular page which is produced or published. After it is scanned, the Ocr technology is operated. That technology identifies the characters used in the scanned image and converts them into real characters or letters and converts into a text. That means Ocr system is supposed to change the image of a text into the text itself. When our system was working, when our corpus was being developed, Ocr system for English and other languages to certain level were a little advanced, which could be applied for collecting data. But for Indian languages, honestly speaking, there was no such device readily available at the time. But there was a chance that we could use it to collect data. The fourth option that we had at the time is manual data entry. So this is the way we followed here. What is that? We got a printed text before us, look into the pages of the text and type it manually into the computer. So entire TDL corpus, which is now available for us for all kinds of research and activities, is actually developed manually. the data entry operator has to sit there, read the text, type them, then another person was there to edit the text if they is properly done. So manual data entry is the best or one of the most reliable processes through which we could collect data. So after the compilation of the data, we need process of corpus generation. This is the basic term. So what happens? We have to define the whole process, how the whole thing can be carried out. First, so we have to find out that these texts should be generated in digital version. Each one should be generated as a file, separate file having data in purely ISCI or ISCI versions as doc file. What we did? The first we have to find out the name of the file. So since we are going to generate large amount of text files and that to be preserved into a digital form, so it was necessary that we should clearly identify or make a file name in a unique way so that each file can have unique identity and can easily be tracked when required. So we decided that each file should have a unique name. Let me give you an example. So it should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to 12 characters strength. So each file name should have at least 12 characters. Like that. The first 2 characters represent the text category from the type of text from it is text. Next 4 characters will represent the name of the text, actual name of the text where from the data is collected. The last 2 characters represent the serial number of a text file. Then there will be dot to say that this is a broad category, and after that there will be a 3 letters character, a string, which will represent the name of the language from where the data is collected. Let me give one example. Say in Bangla we had a file name, say nlklbl05.ben. So the whole string constitutes 12 characters. So NL, the first 2 characters, stands for the text category, that it is novel. Second thing, 84 characters KLBL stands for the novel where from the text is taken. KLBL stands for Kalbela, is a famous novel written in Bangla. So that this novel is actually used to connect the text. Then 05, it stands for that this is the 5th file from this text, that is from this novel. Then there is a dot to indicate, okay, this is the first block of information, and then BEN stands for the language Bangla. So thus, each file name for nearly 1500 files are generated. Each file had a unique name so that it can be easily classified, categorized, and retrieved for further analysis. So after the file name is assigned, we had to start the task of the data editing. But before that, we had to give the header file. For each file, text file, there is a header file. Header file actually contains large amount of metadata. Metadata means which is not the part of the text, not the part of the body of the text, but some additional information which are essential for resolving copyright problems and for doing discourse-based studies and sociolinguistic studies. For those cases, in cases of say imaginative text or in the creative texts, they say the header file should include the name of the book, name of the author, gender of the author, age of the author, when the book was published, name of the publisher, the place of publications, number of words taken, a lot of information something like that. So these were required for further different layers or different areas of research and studies. So this is the header part, or we call it metadata part. Then the actual text part starts. After the header file is generated and whole extra linguistic information of the text are actually included into the header file, the actual text generation starts. Here, one person has to type one by one, one word by one, exactly as it has been observed in the physical text, which is placed just before him. But at the time of the technology what we had at the time, there are certain limitations, again certain constraints again that has to be tackled at the time of data entry. In our cases, certain things are very clearly understood, that page layout, setting, typeface, font types were less important for us. So we are actually collecting texts. So the page layout of the text book or printed book is not important for us. We can manipulate the text in the digital form in all possible ways. So less important was given for the page layout or the stylistic variations of the fonts. So we had followed the uniform font. Invariably there will be no font variations in the digital version. Only one font is used. But at the same time, at the time of typing, certain texts are produced written in English within the body of the text. So we have tried to represent the thing, because our argument was, our logic was very simple. Make the text exactly what is found in the physical version of the text in a digital version. So there should be no change. As a data entry operator or corpus generator, we are not going to make any change in the text itself. But all the images, all the additional information which are there with the text are ignored. And if there is two different fonts in the text, we didn't go for that. We also preserved only one font in the text. The other important thing is that if there is certain mistakes in the physical text itself, that we corrected. But the spelling used in the text are actually preserved accurately in the same way in the printed in digital version. That means if we really know that there is a real mistake, spelling mistakes or grammatical mistakes in the physical text produced or printed, that has been changed. But if certain things are kept by the author deliberately, these are stored into the machine also. So this way we have developed. There is a picture here, we can show how the things have been done. And since it was not possible to take the entire text together, we made certain modifications, certain changes, or made limitations that, okay, that much of an amount of text should come into it.